Corporate Tom and Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. We're live on Twitch and YouTube. We'd love it if you join us. Just search for @Tom and Dan Live.
With us on Zoom, we've got national touring comedian and host of Time Suck and Scared to Death podcast.
Yeah, ma'am.
Comedian Dan Cummings. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for checking in.
How about that intro Tom just gave you? He hit both shows. I was impressed with that, man. That was good.
Yeah. I'm trying to do better. It's been 20 years. I figured I'll start now.
We're finally putting the pieces together. You know what I mean?
Now, has it been 20 years that you've had the podcast, or 20 years since you started in radio?
Yeah, since I started as an intern, put on
My
a bear suit. I was Daniel's intern.
That's
when it
my
happened.
intern. And I don't really order him around anymore. And I think a lot of the things that he does to me to this day are to get back at me. I used to send him downstairs to go get a turkey bagel with hot sauce. I would dunk my turkey bagel into hot sauce, and I'd be like, "Go get my turkey bagel, you POS."
Yeah. Now look who's working now after 2 days after your hip surgery.
Yeah. He's got me right back to work.
This is the turkey bagel of work.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a turkey bagel right now.
How much pain are you in?
They don't give you really any pain pills anymore because the hillbillies ate all of those. and by hillbillies, I mean everyone in Florida except for me who needs pain pills now. So they gave me tramadol, and it's not doing much of anything. So I'm just, whatever. It's fine.
Dan, that's what I used to give.
Advil?
Yeah, I get a Tylenol.
I gave when we used to have a dog and she started getting too old, they just started feeding them the dog pain pills. It was tramadol. And I remember looking it up to see if I could take it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is nothing. It's like an Advil plus."
And they don't give you anything anymore, and they know they can't give you anything, so then they just kind of like it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, that's crazy. That it's like you can get a new hip, and they barely give you painkillers.
Not only that, Dan, but my bone broke. Like it had a hairline fracture when they were hammering in the piece. Well, actually, he told me that wasn't the case. He hammered in the piece and he got it perfect. And he's like, we got it. And they put me in the boot and everything in the trial. And then they heard a little noise.
Oh my God.
And then he's like, let's check it. He's like, we got a hairline fracture. So they wrapped it in wire. So apparently my leg looks like Negan's bat from Walking Dead. I have a
Lucille.
Yeah, I have a Negan's bat leg, which I think is pretty cool.
You can see the wire in the X-ray too. Daniel's wife showed me the X-ray.
And it's barbed wire too. It's barbed wire I went for the full American Choppers Paul Sr.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Barbed wire.
It is crazy that in Florida, like 12 years ago, they'd give you pain pills for strep throat. In Florida, they would just hand them out.
Oh,
you had a headache.
They give you a pamphlet on how to make your own at home. They'd be like, "Here, you want to make your own pain pills? Here, do it at home."
The pendulum has swung too far. Now that you get a new hip, and they're like nothing.
Yeah.
I'm shocked by that. I figured I thought it was still getting passed out down there, but not so much.
No, Daniel's right. The hillbillies ruined it.
Oh, they did. They ruined it. How have you been, man? Like, are you still on the road? Because, so you are for a nationally touring comedian, you're taking some time for yourself, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if honestly I'll tour again. Where, I just got so busy with podcasting the last couple of years. Well, started, I guess, almost over 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
And felt like super busy with it for the last 7 or so years. And then for a while when I was doing, Time Suck, Scared to Death, Is We Dumb, touring, I just got so burnt out that it all stopped being fun. It just felt like it was just this constant thing of I would finish one show, go to the bathroom, immediately start prep on the next show, and do that for 10, 12 hours a day. Tour.
Hold on, that's what I thought you were supposed to do, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, we never stop. As you can tell from I think some listeners might think the hip story is not. No, I was in surgery 24 hours, I was in surgery 35 hours ago, and I'm here. We're doing it.
Yeah. And with Time Suck and Scared to Death, I added some new content this last year. And it just has my, plate really full still. And I just felt like I wasn't able, with stand-up recently. I mean, I am going to be at the Nashville Comedy Festival. I had that on the books, and it's going to be fun. I'm going to do that in a month. But other than that, as far as trying to build a new hour or something, I don't know. Stand-up, it takes a lot of attention, I think, to do it right, or to do it the way I would like to. and I just realized I'm like, I don't have the energy right now. And I'm just having fun, like I'm able to get like creative stuff. I started doing fictional stuff on Scared to Death, twice a month, these like short stories, and that kind of gets my creative juices going. And I just realized I'm like, enough. Like I'm working enough.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this because I saw on social media and I texted you a little before you left. You went on your first, basically adults only, and sounds nefarious when I say it like that. But you went
we all had
without the
sex with each
kids.
other. Yeah, it was a swingers situation.
Yeah.
Which was interesting because it was 3 dudes and my wife. So
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh my God.
I saw that, and I've seen those videos.
I don't know if I'm ready for that.
she's still recovering. She's tired.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Her body's healing.
That's my dad's favorite street joke. Like fishing, she came back with a red snapper. I'm like, get out of here, Dad. Go away, Dad. Go away, Dad.
So let's talk about going to Costa Rica without
Hell
the kids.
yeah, that's awesome, man.
It was fun. I mean, we zipped around a little bit more than Lindsay and I would have done on our own. Probably we would have went to one place and just camped out there. But Eddie and Greg, my old college roommate Eddie and his partner Greg, like they're a little bit more adventurous on vacation, and they wanted to like see some different spots. And driving down there is insane. It's like the infrastructure is a wee bit different. They had, they had these situations, and I'm not exaggerating because I counted. There were like these toll roads, and there was 14 different tolls, and then the 14 tolls went down to 2 lanes in about 200 yards. It was the craziest traffic situation I've ever. There's no guidance. Everyone is just squeaking like this crazy merge where you're inches from the cars next to you, and you kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
But there'd be things like that. And I was laughing with somebody else who had been to Costa Rica recently, and they have no limit on grade, apparently, like on how steep the road can be. And there would be like these insane grades where I was like a 4-wheel drive 4Runner, and I'm like, I don't know if I can make it up that hill.
Oh,
like,
so.
I mean, I would. So steep, and like blind corners, and then all these little bridges. And this is like on a highway that would go down to 1 lane, and the signs are of course in Spanish. I don't know a lot of Spanish, so I couldn't read basically any of the signs, and I'm just like winging it down there.
Yeah.
Driving the whole time, be like, okay, I guess this is what you do, and then no shoulder, like these narrow little roads with no shoulder, and then just a drop off on the side. And it was, I remember after like 5 days, we got to this one resort in this place called Manuel Antonio, and I parked the car, and they were talking about well, hey, maybe tonight we can go up the hill, and I just snapped. I was like, no, I'm not driving anymore. I'm like, we're parked here until we have to go to the airport. If you get an Uber, I had this my nerves were just shot on those roads.
Yeah, I mean, but you think about people have been injured on those roads. I mean, you think I would go immediately to Left Eye Lopez. I mean, she's going off the cliff. She's dead.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
but isn't it like a breath of fresh air to be in a country where they'll rent you a car and let you just be like, hey, you want to go up this mountain? Go ahead and do whatever. Yeah, if you kill yourself, that's on you.
It is less paperwork for sure. Yeah.
I mean, it was laid back, and it was kind of, once I got used to it, it was fun in moments where it felt like you couldn't get pulled over for anything. It just felt like it was this anarchy on the roads. Like you'd be on these highways, people would just park on the highway, take up a full lane, and just expect people to drive around them for however long they're there. There's chickens on the road. There's dogs.
I love chickens on the road.
And after a while, you just kind of reach this point of all right, whatever. I'm just going to do whatever. I'm just going to drive as fast as I want in the straight stretch, and I'll pass wherever I want. And, I'll just kind of wing it on the merges. And after a while, there was a part of me that was like, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
This is exciting way to drive.
The 3 things that I know that I'm in a great country where there's freedom, the 3 things that I see that I mark in my psyche. Dog in the road, chicken in the road. Now, you may or may not have seen this. Young boy or girl belongs to village, very small, nude, urinating. Did you see that? If you
nude kids, lots of kids, though, with their parents and grandparents, walking to and from school.
Yeah.
And also on the road. And it was just crazy how comfortable people were with traffic just zipping just right next to them. They got their headphones on, not a care in the world. I would be a nervous wreck walking down one of those roads.
Yeah.
How about colorful bus with luggage on the roof?
Oh, I like that. That's a stereotype.
Going down.
And it's wobbling, right? Like...
It wobbles back and forth. You see a lot of that?
I did see a lot of Sprinter vans and honestly, like tour buses on these same tiny roads. And I'm like, man, these drivers have nerves of steel.
Yeah.
Just to, and they're hauling ass, some of them. And I'm like, oh, no way I could do that job. I don't think. But it was fun. I will say, first, vacation without the kids, just to
How did Lindsay take it? Like, was she like, was she nervous about it at all, or is she like cooler than you were?
Oh no, she was nervous.
Okay.
She's not a great passenger in this country.
Gotcha.
she was white knuckling a lot of those situations.
I bet.
But it was fun, like, as far as the adult stuff, like just to be able to, I mean, honestly, to do drugs whenever you want. We brought a lot of psychedelics, and like my favorite day.
Were you worried about bringing that into Costa Rica?
No, because we didn't bring. Well, no, we did bring mushrooms, but we brought mushrooms in a honey, like mixed into a honey, and this is what I do. Here's a travel drug tip for people. Maybe don't get mad at me if this gets you in trouble, but with like certain drugs, okay, like Molly, it looks like vitamins. You just got these little crystals, it looks like ritual vitamins. You pack them in these little gel capsules. I just mix them in with my vitamins, like in a separate pouch. So it's like, okay, I don't even care if somebody looks, because they're
healthy and horny at the same time.
Well, Dan, you've traveled a lot. I imagine that they're only looking for giant quantities of drugs, and they're not looking for personal amounts of people's psychedelics, weed, or whatever the hell else they're bringing, right?
Right. And I don't think those people, no offense to a lot of the people working like TSA and these security lines, they're not experts. Like, there's no way they would know like penis envy mushroom from like golden lion or whatever, some like non-psychedelic mushroom. I mean, I probably wouldn't know either.
Penis envy mushroom.
I'm not a mushroom expert, so it's like,
yeah.
You just label things differently. You just label like, come up with a legal mushroom, write that on the bag or something, and then like acid, like the little tabs are so small, they're just like in a gum wrapper. I don't know how they would find that, and it has no odor, so it's like I don't know how they would find that. Like DMT, you get like a little like like the oil cartridge. It just looks and a vaporizer, so it looks like it could be nicotine.
How do you know how to properly dose? Do you have someone there, or are you guiding the way into the psychedelics and stuff, or do you have people that know maybe more than you, or have you done this enough to be able to dose yourself correctly?
Oh, I've done it enough to feel pretty comfortable with like how to do it.
Yeah, that's one of the things we have never done on our show.
I need to,
and I've never done really I've done mushrooms one time and I freaked out.
Everybody said, yeah, but you probably overdosed.
I did.
I
freaked out
and so
lost my mind.
How do we get into this, Dan?
I would say it's like, I think there's a bunch of misconceptions about it. Or like just like take acid. There's this expectation that, no matter how much you take, for people who don't take it, you're just going to go on this insane ride and you're going to lose your mind for 8 hours and be on this like fear and loathing kind of trip. But it's just like alcohol, where it's like, you can have a drink or you can have 10 drinks. You can just adjust the dose. And so like if you do like a half tab of acid, you're not going to go into some crazy hallucination kind of realm. You would feel a little bit more energetic. Colors might be a little bit more vibrant, less anxiety. Like there's lots of people. Okay, Father John Misty is a famous example of an artist who like is on some level of acid apparently almost all the time, but he's not tripping. It reduces his anxiety. It helps with depression. It makes him feel better. Things might glow a little more. And then sometimes if you want to go a little heavier, you just add a little more. And I think when you kind of baby step your way into it, you do it enough, you get comfortable with that space. And then, so it's not as intimidating because you're like, oh, okay, my chest is heavy. That means it's starting to like kick in. I'm starting to have, like interesting thoughts. It's getting a little deeper. I set a timer on my phone. So I know if I get like in a heavy trip, it's like a lifeline where I'm like, okay, I've been here for 3 hours. It's like a little tether to reality. And then sometimes, like I've had heavy trips that scared the hell out of me, where I thought I was, literally had been in a mental institution my whole life and was never going to get out.
Oh my God.
Why
Actually,
did it go that
sounds kind
far?
of exciting. That sounds like a video game. How'd you get out? Tell me about this. I love dreams.
Hold on, I like it. You're like, you see some colorful, everything looks a little more vibrant.
Yeah.
Or
Locked up for good.
locked up in my entire life in mental institution.
You can, I mean, like if you go heavy enough with, shrooms or acid, you will disassociate at some point. Like you'll go into like heavy hallucinations that can be auditory and visual hallucinations, which can get pretty wild. And then you also like lose any concept of time, so you don't know, like a minute can feel like an hour, like your brain's not processing time correctly, so it feels like you've been forever. And you can literally this like ego suppression, you can lose an understanding of who you are and where you kind of stop and somebody else begins. It's kind of hard to explain, but yeah, it can get real confusing and real scary if you're not prepared for that. And even if you are prepared for that, you can still have a bad trip. But like, I think once you've done it enough, it's like, yeah, but you always come out of the trip.
So you lose your sense of self, like, and then you're like, you feel.
I think that's where the therapy trips come into, where it's like they megadose you so that you come out a little bit different for the better.
Like,
right?
this guy's crazy. Shake him up again.
I mean, you can have like ego death, with like heavier doses, and then just experimenting, finding what works for you. It's like I like currently like a combination of like LSD and MDMA, like Molly, because Molly like it floods your serotonin receptors, like you're so happy.
Yeah.
And it kind of steers the trip, and it's a nice body high into a different direction. And that was my favorite thing in Costa Rica. Like me and Greg dropped acid right after lunch and went down to the beach, but like through this jungle area, and it felt like. Once I started to trip, it felt like I was some kind of Amazonian native who had been like out in the jungle forever. Like this is just my home.
I love it. So
I still kind of knew it was me, but like, and then there was monkeys around, and like seeing a little monkey face on acid was so intense, but like super fun. And
I think you can truly appreciate a monkey face on acid, I feel like, right? I feel like you can't, like right now, like this guy won't let me do it. Like right now, I'm like, let's look at this monkey. He's like, we got work to do. I feel like if I gave him acid, he would slow down and enjoy the monkey faces occasionally.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun.
Were you on psychedelics when you did zip lining?
No. I smoked a little weed before we did. We brought a the vape pen for weed and just to relax a little bit. Lindsay smoked quite a bit of weed because she was losing her mind about ziplining. She's afraid of heights, and she didn't realize like how high this canyon was that we did. It's like 1,600 feet, I think, down to like it was so fun. It was like 7 lines, and once you do the first one, you're pretty much committed that to get to the bottom, you just have to keep going. I mean, I imagine there's some kind of emergency evacuation system, but they don't let you know. So she was committed, and she was kind of freaking out.
Ziplining is the scuba diving of the air. I don't know if people know that. It is the scuba diving of the air. Because you're just getting hooked into things, and then they're just pushing you. Like, and you can be like really fat, and they can just push you down the thing. And it's fine, because it's like scuba diving.
I have freaked out. Scuba diving's way scarier to me. And after this last trip, I kind of wonder if I did a little acid to scuba dive, because I went out in the ocean on acid, and I was, where I couldn't touch, which not a big deal for most people, but like, I'm almost phobically afraid of the ocean in moments, thinking my mind gets going, thinking about what creatures are around me.
Sure, yeah.
And there was little fish jumping around us, and I just thought it was so beautiful. Like, I just didn't care. But like sober, the only time I've ever had a true panic attack where I'm like, what is my body doing right now? Was scuba diving, where I started doing like this weird, like kind of like hyperventilating. And I just freaked out, but I didn't even feel it kind of coming on before that. I just started thinking, I was a little nervous about the water, what was around me, and then all of a sudden I just felt like I couldn't get my breathing under control.
Yeah.
Like, ocean freaks me out.
Yeah. I mean, it should. It's weird. And then they just found that fish, like what, 2 weeks ago? They found like what was the ugly fish that came all the way up? He's like, I'm still here. Did you see that? It was like the ugliest fish in the world. He's jet black with like he's got a D hanging off of his nose. And he's disgusting, and he swam up, and everyone's like, look at him. And then we killed him, right? Did we beat him good?
Yeah.
That's what you do with any fish that comes up to say hi from the depths.
Also, if you do start to have a panic attack scuba diving, because I've been down there, I thought I could do it high a couple times, and then I pushed the limits, and then down there, and then you start thinking like, oh man, it would be a rough death down here. And then your heart is like,
You can actively see your oxygen going down.
Oh, you know what? And I just remembered, I haven't even scuba dived. I've snorkeled. I confuse those two.
Oh.
I'm not even brave enough to scuba dive. Snorkeling freaked me out. Just being like
see, I like scuba diving better because snorkel, always water gets in there. Scuba diving, you're fine.
Snorkeling is the zip line of scuba diving. So,
God.
Dan, who is El Guapo, the dog mayor of La Fortuna?
Oh my gosh, Guapo is this little dog. It was so adorable. Like, La Fortuna was a town we really liked, kind of in like central Costa Rica. And there were in the downtown area by this kind of like town square, there's all these restaurants. And we went to this restaurant this one night, and then this dog is just like wandering around the restaurant, like, begging different tables for food. And our waitress comes up and was like, Guapo, go on, like refer to the dog as Guapo. And then, then we, after she left, we were like, Guapo, come back. And we're feeding Guapo from the table, and then just a cute like old little dog, probably like, I don't know, 12 15 pounds. And then the next night we go to another restaurant and Guapo walks in. Guapo, the mayor of La Fortuna, he just hits all the restaurants on the square looking for who's going to give him some chicken or whatever. And so then we just gave him some more chicken. And then we walked around, and then we saw him before we left that town, just like on another part of town, just like, oh, that's just Guapo walking around.
It's me, my friend. I miss you.
Hello, how are you?
2 nights we dined together. Tonight, a
welcome to Costa Rica. It's a beautiful country.
Yeah.
I wish
your wife. She is so beautiful, Dad. Let me kiss her cheeks.
I like a country with street dogs.
Street dogs, yeah. Coco. I learned that from Coco, the movie Coco. And that mean grandma that breaks it. I hate that lady. That's the last character in any movie. Like, I did a whole episode on a movie podcast about how I hate the grandma from the movie Coco because she would always hate the street dogs. She'd beat them. She'd beat them with her.
Oh no!
With her. What is it? What's it called?
Chancleta.
I was gonna say Dr. Shanlate, our medical marijuana doctor. But she was beating the street dogs. Street dogs are fine. They need love.
Yeah.
Long live Guapo.
I wish you had more street dogs in the U.S. Just wandering around.
Well, we have they're more like men, homeless men walking around. They're patriot. We have a good patriots wandering around.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was kind of wondering, like, how have things been for you guys the last few months as far as talking about things just culturally. I've noticed that, like, man, the trigger points for at least like the Time Suck audience have shifted the last couple months, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was a political thing now. It's been an interesting couple years where I'm like, oh wow, me making fun of that is political. Like, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking that's just a goofy thing that happened. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I didn't know, since you guys are riffing around and talking about all kinds of things, if it's been a little like a little more challenging.
Like, I stay out of all that stuff, and we stay away from everything really political. But you're right. Everything can be turned political. Even like, if you are like, it could be as simple as if you're tougher on something, or like think one way about anything. It's like, oh, I see where you're leaning.
I honestly like to use my car as a perfect example, because when I bought my car, it was a liberal electric piece of crap, and people are rolling, and they're rolling coal all over me, just rolling coal.
Throwing
and Dan's look at you, you're Pelosi's grandson or whatever. I don't know. I don't do it. We don't do any of it. And then, like, literally in less than 6 months, I am now driving a Nazi Magamobile, and I'm like, I have no idea how that, and I'm like, I don't know how it happened. I love the car. I love the car. I hate to say, I was apparently in anesthesia yesterday. I'm so worried about this in my subconscious that as I was waking up, I was defending my car to my nurses, because I was like, it's fine. I love it, but I'm not a Nazi. I was like defending to all of them. Like, my wife's tell her to shut up.
It's crazy the emails I'll get. I got an email yesterday. I did an episode about this. I think it's the one out this week, actually, about this guy, Anders Breivik. He's like, he did this mass shooting up in Norway. Crazy, like, neo-Nazi guy from, like, I don't know, 15 years ago. He did this in Norway, and was just covering it as like a dark, interesting topic. Curious about it. And I've always been fascinated with Scandinavian countries because they rank so well on these happiness indexes. And so I just looked, and it's like, when it comes to the taxes, they don't actually pay more than we do when you add up state, federal, everything all together. And they get so much more. And I was just pointing that out. I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be nice to live in a country where you don't have to pay health care? They take care of you. It's good health care, good doctors. They're well educated. They, they take care of your retirement. You get all these days off. You get this paternity leave, maternity leave. I'm like, man, that'd be nice. Like,
Sure.
we should look at Scandinavia, what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. Always ranking in the top of these happiness indexes. I get an email from this guy. All right, man, it's been a fun 7 years, but I'm out. He goes,
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh that quickly.
Oh, he was like, I liked you when you weren't a radical liberal and you actually love this country. And I'm like, for saying that Norway's great, but that's the kind of stuff I'm like, okay, that's new.
Yeah.
That's new. Yeah, just people with the weirdest echo chambers, and they do this thing where it's like everything in their life is political because they make it political.
They do.
And they just project that onto everything they listen to. And it's like, if you say a bad word about I didn't like that Elon is going to shut down, I don't know, or wants to shut down PBS. Okay, radical liberal, I've had it.
Yeah.
Like, what? I can't just not like this one thing? It's so weird.
Yeah, you have to be part of the team, which is, I guess, one of the reasons why we choose not to play in that world. But then we also get hit with you get hit with some people that are like, well, I mean, grow a spine, pick a side. It's like,
my God,
I don't want to fight anymore. I'm so tired of friends and family and people I care about, like all up and down the East Coast. Normally my family's all Southern, so you can probably predict how they feel. And I'm tired of them all fighting, and I'm tired of the negativity and the yelling and the anger. I don't have any place for that. I just want to be a good human and be with my friends and live out a healthy life. I'm over it.
Well, man, it's like, everybody talks about if you lived only in the real world, and you go to the grocery store, you go to work, you around your neighbors, your friends and family, and if you're off social media or don't look, then you're like, oh, okay. Everything's the way it was. People are generally nice to me. Yeah, everybody's nice to me. No one's arguing at Publix. No one's at the grocery store.
Right.
Everybody that I'm sure has different political beliefs is polite to me. They're nice people. They'll, if you drop something, they'll pick it up. It's like, that's the real world.
That's the one I won't do. If somebody drops something, I'm like, you pick that up yourself. I'm sorry.
I think it's a addiction to dopamine release for whatever emotional, like anger, fear.
Yeah, exactly. You get this all get worked up, and it kind of feels good in a weird way.
Yeah.
And I also think it has to do with social media. I think that we all we weight the things that we say, especially if they're political. We're like, oh, this is great. I got to tell other people about this. And I think I really do believe we'd be in a lot better place if we didn't do that. Like if we were able to steal that away somehow. Now, look, I'm not the biggest believer in taking anything away from anybody.
Totally.
But I'm just saying, in this instance, if I could take it away, I'd love to see how it played out, because I think it'd be better. Yeah. If we didn't have it.
We're gonna do an upcoming topic on Time Suck about, and I'm blanking the name of it's like whatever the KGB in Russia turned into. I can't think of the government agency.
Yeah.
And then they have these little sub agencies. But there's one sub-agency that basically it's focused on social media disruption, internationally. And I become more maybe conspiratorial, but more fascinated with, I'm like, how much of social media and all the hate that gets stirred up, people worked up online, is not even real people. And it's not just bots. It's some bots, but bots being directed by foreign operatives who literally their job is to sow discord in other countries.
Disruption.
And it's like, I think that's becoming a huge thing. I think years from now, people are going to look back and be like, oh my God, we had no idea the level of interference, in our news feeds, these algorithms and social media, because what a cool way, not cool way, but cool for your country.
It'd be cool if you're Russian, right?
Yeah. If you want, if you want to destroy your adversary, you don't even have to fire a shot anymore. You can just antagonize them in ways they don't even realize you're doing, and have them just destroy themselves. So to your point, I don't want to take people's stuff away, but I would love to see if we shut it all down for a year. No TikTok, no Facebook, none of it. It all goes away for a year, how people's moods would be. And I bet people would be way nicer to it. And also
Not
no
at
more,
first. They'll be mad at first.
well, yeah. They'll be mad. They'll be mad. And then they'll have like, a grievance process.
Yeah.
But then they go outside and talk to other people and talk to their neighbors and get off their devices, in those ways. I bet they would be like way happier.
I know people that have deleted all their social media, and all of them have reported a increase in happiness. Not they were like, "This is the biggest mistake of my life." Everybody said the best thing I ever did. So I was like, okay, well, there's some evidence. There's a lot of people that are like better without it.
Hey, Dan,
and their life didn't get negatively affected by it.
Dan, you're always using the internet. Your team's always using the internet. Your wife's always using the internet. Where are you with the usage of internet? Is it dead? Because Tom and I are constantly yelling at our computers because we'll be doing something in here and we can't find. Sometimes we get into a hole and we feel like the internet is like destroying itself.
You mean like just with like crazy information that's online?
Yeah, it's just like nothing's vetted. Sometimes it is. Like, how hard is it? Is it harder to do your job now when you're sourcing out a topic? Easier? Has it stayed sort of the same? Like, how do you feel about like sort of the internet and its, I guess, validity?
I think we were lucky in that, like, before the internet got so crazy, we got used to going to like investigative journalism books and these like academic, databases that we found that we started to like trust, and we're able to kind of like vet, which sources were better than others. So we're not just at the mercy of AI or anything like that. And I feel pretty good. Like we found, a good range of sources, places like newspapers.com that is just literally old newspaper archives. Again, like finding books and just, I don't know, some of it is by gut where you're like, how well sourced is this book? Does the information in this book, line up with investigative journalism articles written by other people? But yeah, you do have to pay attention more. Like I was just talking to somebody the other day, and I won't say who they are, another podcast, and they said they don't use researchers anymore. They just went to AI, and they were asking me about that. And I'm like, no, there's just too much. It doesn't know good from bad info yet.
No, it doesn't.
And there's nonsense on the web. So I guess it is a little harder. I guess you have to really be careful of like what your sources are.
Yeah, AI has been good for me in pushing my information around. So if I have my own information that I can give AI, it'll make it my clay into good stuff. But I don't like taking its answers. In fact, you and I were doing that show and we were talking about, has any Alabama player ever scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl? And it was dead wrong like 3 different times. It could not get it. It's just not there yet.
And you know what? AI hasn't learned to like take a snapshot of like, and you'll understand what I'm saying. Like you search something on Google, right? And then you look through some websites, you kind of know which ones are BS, know which ones are kind of, and you take a snapshot of like a bunch of different sources, and you know which the information to throw away and which to keep, right? And I don't think AI has figured that out, right? Because we figured out how to navigate the internet and like, okay, this is generally what the truth is. This, I know it can't be, sometimes not 100%, but it's like, all right, the better, and AI is just taking everything that's on the internet for its word. And then it's like, here it is. And that's not right yet.
It also goes too fast. I've noticed, Dan, I don't know how much you use it, but I've noticed with mine, and I use a lot of ChatGPT normally because we're very stressed with just the two of us, and I got to do some notes. So if it makes a mistake, I can go in there, and this is weird, but I can go like, hey, you're making mistakes. Slow down. And it'll fix the mistakes. It'll fix the mistakes, which is
that's wild.
Kind of weird in a weird. I don't know. I don't know where I'm at with it. I use it for like some parody songs and some silly stuff, just messing around with it. I mean, I guess it's kind of fun, but I'm getting worn out on it fast, if that makes sense. It's like
I'm excited where it's going. I haven't messed around with it yet. I'm probably not going to be able to, and unless maybe down the road I kind of reduce some content so I can free up to like basically do like research and development on new things and learn new things. But this guy, I wish I could remember the name of the program. It was some kind of AI thing, and it's this thing for content creators, or could definitely be used by them. Or I guess it is built for them. He showed me this presentation. It was like some guy giving a speech, 25 minutes on some paranormal stuff. And he just put this 25-minute video into this program, and he wanted like 8 different clips for social media. And the AI would listen, to the whole speech, and it picked entirely on its own what it thought was the most interesting 30-second 8 30-second segments from this thing, captioned all of them perfectly, and then also ranked them as far as like on a scale of like 1 to 10, but it would be like a 9. This clip's a 9.7. It's perfect as far as virability. Its intrigue factor is an 8. Like it was crazy how it broke it down. And he said it took like 5-10 minutes. And that's the kind of thing like I thought about when I had my last special. I had Logan working for us. He spent months working on clips.
Yeah.
You know, to come up with the same end result. And I'm like, oh man, that's fascinating. And he was showing me some animation stuff too, to take some podcast moments and animate them. And it's not quite there, but it's getting close.
Yeah.
And I can see myself in a year or two experimenting with it. Like I've thought on the scared to death side. I'm like, what if I could take these nightmare fuel stories I've been doing and make them cinematic and then put them on YouTube as to have this visual component.
Oh man, that would be killer.
Dan, we've talked about the what AI will eventually be able to do, and it you can make people are saying that it'll be able to make full lifelike movies just based on you telling it what you want the movie to be about. So like you take a scared to death episode, it'll make a movie, but by the time we get there, and this is where the ultimate point gets to, and you're talking about now AI can do social media really well and just take like content, cut it up, put it out. It's the most likely to get clicked on. But when everybody has that ability and it's flooding the internet with a million movies, and everybody has a movie, everybody has their own biography out, movie out. It's like it gets to the point where it's so much that the dead internet theory, where it's like it's all just a nothing.
Yeah, it's like when podcasts started having their own craft beer. Do you remember that? Every podcast would be like, "Hey, we made a Tom and Dan beer." Well, now every podcast in the world has a goddamn beer. It doesn't even matter anymore. It doesn't matter.
Where does it all become? It devalues all art.
I think what's going to happen, and it's funny, my son, Kyler, he's very anti-AI. And I do like that a lot of these, like him and his friends and like my daughter, they've been raised around this stuff and they don't want it. They want like real. They want to hear the mistakes. They want like a human, component to things.
Interesting.
I think with AI, what's going to happen is there's just like people freaked out a long time ago when like the photograph, came around. And the people who did like portraits, they were like, "What? No, it's not as good. Like, look at the rich detail I've made of this portrait of this person. This photo, it cheapens it," and they got upset. But then there were people who learned to take photography and turn that into an art. And I think with AI, what's going to happen is there's going to be people who learn. They're not just going to put in, make me scary movie with guy who looks scary and insane. And it's like they're going to figure out how to like add really curated prompts, and then take that, what the AI kicks back to them, and then tweak it and overlay it with some hand done, like a human touch. And I'm hopeful that there will just be like creative people who are just part of their toolkit now. And it won't just look like everything else. I'm hoping.
I've been doing some of that. You know who did that back in the day was the movie Godzilla.
Really?
You had this movie that like when they did the split screen of him like kind of coming in, and there's a scene where he shoots his fire. All the fire is hand drawn on top of the film. So it gives it this. It's no different than just hey, I'm going to put the human on top of this AI. It's the same. It's just different variations of
using technology as a tool.
Correct, and it still holds up. If you look at it now, it's like it's still a great movie.
So Dan, before we go, I got to ask you a question, because recently we talked about a subject on the show, and then our listeners like, you already talked about this 5 years ago. And we had no recollection of talking about it, and we're like, really? Anyway, we just do so much but it was weird to us because usually we remember.
We only talk about 4 different things.
But so now episode 445 of Time Suck came out recently, and you've covered a lot of different subjects and people. I'm wondering if someone brought up a person or a subject, would you know for sure that you did a time suck on it, or would it take you a minute, or would you be like, I think I did it, but I don't know?
Oh, that's a great question. He's asking you if you're as dumb as we are, because we don't remember any of our stuff.
Well, they got all run together.
Yeah.
Well, I'll preface this by saying my wife Lindsay is convinced that I'm fairly autistic, Never been tested, but my memory is weird in the sense that like if somebody had a gun to my head and they're like, you only get to live if you can tell me what you ate yesterday. Most days there would be about an 85% chance I would die. I would not be able to, even under that kind of circumstance. I'm like, like I'd freak out and they just shoot me in the head. But when it comes to like weird subjects, I have never repeated anything. I've had fans that like have thought like, hey, you've already done this. And I'm like, nope, sure haven't. I mean, I do keep a list, but also just recall. So far, it hasn't been an issue. So far, I have like a weird memory.
Keep a list. Write that down. Maybe we should have done that. You know,
I do that. I
having your information freely available
because the titles of the episode aren't necessarily indicative of the topic. So I'm like, oh man, I better do this so we don't like run into the same story. And there have been definitely a few occasions where like researchers have pitched me a story and I'm like, I think we've done that. And it was nice to be able to refer to the list and be like, no, we definitely did that. And sometimes in the paranormal world, the same story will be called 2 or 3 different things.
Yeah.
Which is confusing. And so they'll find it under a different name. And I'm like, no. But Time Suck's at least easy where it's like the title of the episode is what the episode was about. So if I ever need to verify, I literally just go to Google and just put in Time Suck, that subject. And then if it doesn't come up, I'm like 100% positive we haven't done it. Well, but conversationally, like what you guys do, that would be way more difficult to track because you guys ping pong all over the place.
But easier to do.
Yeah. And
because we can just sit here and blah 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 blah, and then the problem is the listeners go, well, you've already talked about that, and we're like, we know we didn't make a list, and they're like, well, you should have. It's a mess. It's a big mess, Dan.
But I think like with stories, like funny personal stories, I've definitely repeated some of those knowingly, like Time Suck. And I think like, yeah, you get new listeners. It's been a while.
That's what we tell ourselves, right? Like that.
I tell myself people like that story they've heard a million times.
You know what? This guy, he's always like, they love the classics. They love the classics.
I mean, I look at it like the person most infamous for repeating stories that I'm aware of, and this guy's fantastic. He's a great storyteller, but Joey Diaz.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's like, you know, I'd see sometimes in the reviews, people like, oh my God, how many times do I have to hear this story? But then you look at the ratings are still great. He still has a ton of downloads.
Yeah.
He still has so many people who love his show. It's like, who cares? So he repeats things sometimes. I mean, God, my dad has been cycling the same 7 stories my entire life.
Yeah. My dad got to a point after his stroke that his saying 7 stories, like he would forget the punchlines to them, and then I'd have to finish them. So it became like a group effort to get his world famous racist jokes out. You know.
So I know Dan already mentioned it, but Time Suck podcast, Scared to Death podcast. You're going to be at Nashville Comedy Festival coming up soon.
Yeah, doing the Nashville Comedy Festival in April, and that'll be the last time I'll do stand-up for probably quite a while. And then the only other things we have coming up is we have our summer camp in September. We're doing a cruise for somebody else. It's called Crime Wave, I believe.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like the first year. It's like us, Sinisterhood, last podcast on the left. It'll be like Scared to Death.
Oh, nice.
That'll be in November. And then that's all we have, and that feels like enough.
That's
the rest
a lot.
Of the the rest of the travel is just fun. We're doing like Jazz Fest here pretty soon, and trying to sneak to more concerts and things like that.
That's awesome, man. Well, please give your family some love from us, and we certainly appreciate you taking the time to catch up with us today, man. We love you. We don't get to see you.
I love you
as often as we should.
I follow you guys, obviously on Instagram, and keep up with what's going on that way. And yeah, I love it. You guys are. You're still doing great.
We're something. We're doing something.
We're doing it, Dan.
Yeah.
I have thought about when we set out to do this, and me and Daniel were like, oh, what's next, whatever. And then enough time has gone by. We're like, I think we already did it.
Yeah, we did it.
We made a living.
We're like, what are we trying to accomplish?
Doing this weird thing.
We're doing it.
Yeah. I think we're doing it now.
Yeah.
And then, I think we can retire doing this if everything goes all right, and that's all you hope to wish for, right?
It's like, amazing what you guys have done. I just, and you guys know with like radio, it's like Johnny Dare, this guy in Kansas City, he's been so great. He just got, unceremoniously, as they always do it, dropped last week.
Yeah.
But 32 years, and that was like such a legendary run, 32 years. And Molly Allen, this lady here, they were over 20 years here in Spokane. The morning show was like #1 forever. The Breakfast Club here in the Spokane, they got dropped unceremoniously again like 3-6 months ago. And I just love, like, you know, when you guys got into radio, what you do now has way more stability, and you know, no big corporate conglomerate just gets to be like, nope, clear your desk. You got to be out of the building in 30 minutes, you know, just out of nowhere one of these days. And
yeah. And what's weird is when they dropped those shows could have gone on until those people retired. They still had listeners. Like, you know, they only dropped them because they fell into some category of like rating or whatever.
Their margins too high.
Or whatever it is. And it's like, and then it's like, who won in that scenario? No one. And it's like, these people could have done this forever if they did it themselves. And that's kind of what you know, we've learned.
Which is why we're all here. Yeah.
You guys are so inspiring. You know, you guys still, like, I talk about you guys all the time as far as like, you know, the podcasting, and just how you've done it so well for so long is super cool. So you should feel proud of yourselves.
Well, and you as well. Thank you so much for your time, man. It's always good talking to you. Like we said, give the family some love, and we hope to do this again real soon.
Awesome. Now go get on a trampoline. Test that hip out.
Yeah. I got to go jump around. All right, man. See you soon.
Dan.
Bye, Dan.
See you guys.
See ya.
Dan Cummings, live from the Bad Magic Production Studio.
All right. We will see you tomorrow.